Your breath isn't just air, it's the key to taking back control of your life in a world where stress and anxiety are always tagging along. Forget that the answer is right there in every inhale and exhale. This book isn't just a guide. It's an invitation to reconnect with what really matters and to use your breath as a powerful tool to transform your health, mind, and overall well-being. Through stories, practical techniques, and deep reflections, this book offers a fresh, unique approach. It combines science and personal experience to help you rediscover the transformative power of something as simple and vital as breathing. It's not about complicated theories, but about learning to live with more calm, clarity, and habits that reduce stress. The Science of Breathing, author unknown, The Rebirth of Breathing, connecting with the here and now. It all started with a feeling of emptiness, a deep disconnection from what really matters. Have you ever felt like you're going through life without really breathing? That really was my reality for a long time, until one day I realized that my breathing wasn't just an automatic thing, but a quiet conversation with my deepest self. I remember the morning when all those restless, swirling thoughts were going through my head. I sat down facing the sunrise as the first rays of sun turned the room golden. It was right then and there that something whispered to me, breathe, not just to live, but to feel. I asked myself, how many times do we just breathe to survive? And more importantly, how many times have we let our breath become a refuge, an anchor for this restless sea we call the mind? As I reflected, I started to feel it. I closed my eyes and slowly breathed in through my nose, letting the air fill every corner of my body, felt my lungs expand like wings unfolding, and it seemed like I was letting go not just of the air, but also the invisible weight I carried inside. That's when I realized breathing was so much more than just that simple lie. Exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide was my direct link to the present, to who I really am. But how did we end up forgetting something so basic? They teach us to run before we've even learned to walk steadily. They fill us with worries before giving us the tools to handle them. Breathing, that invisible thread that connects us to the moment, just becomes a routine task. Yet every breath we take can be an invitation to come back to ourselves. I remember at first my mind was always restless, making me uncomfortable. It resisted why bother with something so basic. But isn't true wealth found in the simplest things? So, I started spending a few minutes each day just letting my breath talk to me, guide me, show me what I'd ignored for so long. And in that process, I discovered something amazing. The more I connected with my breath, the more I connected with myself. There were tough days when I felt like the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future were stealing my breath, but even in those moments, an inner voice told me to breathe. Here and now is all you have. And little by little, I learned to trust that each breath in was a reminder that I was alive, and each breath out was a chance to let go of what I didn't need. The most surprising thing was how this practice started to change not just my mind, but my body too. The calm I found with every slow, mindful breath showed up in my posture and my energy. Even in my relationships, my once chaotic thoughts started to settle. I felt more present, more capable, more at peace. Then a question came up that changed everything. What if everyone learned how to breathe again? What would happen if we just stopped for a moment and recognized the power of this simple act? Because breathing isn't just about staying alive. It's about living with purpose, presence, and gratitude. Now when I close my eyes and feel the air fill my lungs, I can't help but smile. I've learned that breathing, it's a bridge to calm, a ride to self-discovery, a tool to reconnect with what makes us human. It's a constant rebirth, an endless chance to start over. And you, reading these words, when was the last time you really took a deep breath? If you're here, maybe now's the moment to do it. Stop, close your eyes, feel the air filling you up. Remember, right now, nothing else matters, just you, your breath, and the present. Breathing through your mouth, a quiet habit that wears you down. I remember the first time I noticed how badly I was breathing. It was just some random afternoon. During a boring conversation, when I realized my mouth was slightly open as I exhaled, I didn't think much of it. At least not then. It's just air, I thought. But was it really just air? Or was there something deeper hidden in that, seemingly insignificant act? The discovery came the way important truths usually do, awkward and disruptive. One night, while struggling with insomnia, I found myself reflecting on my constant feeling of tiredness, my scattered mind, and that anxiety that seemed to follow me everywhere. I wondered if something as simple as the way I was breathing could be affecting my life. That question sent me on a search. I started watching how others breathed around me. Why did some seem to move with unshakable calm while others, like me, lived in a constant state of urgency? That's when I noticed a pattern in how people breathed. From the way their mouths moved, it seemed like they were stuck in a constant inner battle, while those who breathed through their noses radiated a calmness I deeply envied. I realized the mouth wasn't made to keep us alive. It's more like an emergency exit, a back door we use when chaos overwhelms us. But how many times do we choose that door unnecessarily, letting our body and mind pay the price? I started experimenting. I deliberately kept my mouth closed during my daily routines, focusing hard on inhaling through my nose. Exhaling only through my nose was tough at first. My body, used to the easy way out, resisted. I felt like I was learning to walk all over again. How could something so natural be so hard? But over time, the results came, and they were life-changing. My energy went up, my mind cleared, and my anxiety started to fade away like mist in the sun. I realized that breathing through my mouth wasn't just stealing oxygen from me. It was also messing with my balance, focus, and inner peace. It was like every breath in, nasal breathing kept me grounded, making me feel like everything was in place. While every time I breathed out through my mouth, I felt a bit more disconnected from myself. But it wasn't just my own experience. That convinced me. I found studies, stories, and evidence backing it up. Breathing through your mouth was linked to sleep problems, chronic fatigue, and even negative thinking patterns. If only I had known this sooner, I told myself. Despite everything, I can't help but wonder how many of us live like this, breathing through your mouth without even realizing how many lives could change. If only it's too many. There's something deeply symbolic about this act of closing your mouth and breathing through your nose. It's a statement of intention, a way of saying, I'm here, present, and I choose to live fully. Because in the end, isn't that what we're all after? Connection with ourselves, a moment of calm in the chaos of the world? Ask you, how are you breathing right now? Is it through your mouth? Who's carrying the load? Or have you let your nose do its natural job? Maybe like me, you'll find that the smallest change can make a huge difference. Close your eyes, shut your mouth, and let the air flow the way it was always meant to. It's time to take back control of something we never should have lost. The science of nasal breathing, hidden benefits. It was during a chat with a doctor friend that I first heard the phrase, the nose is more than just an air intake. It's a filter, a regulator, an alchemist of the human body at that moment. Those words sounded poetic to me, but I didn't give them the importance they deserved. Still, a part of me couldn't ignore them. There was something in his tone, in the certainty of his voice, that made me want to dig deeper. That's how my journey into the secrets of nasal breathing began. It wasn't quick or easy. In fact, like many important things, it took me a while to truly understand its real significance. Why do we keep underestimating what's right in front of us? Why is something as basic as the way we breathe such a mystery to most of us? One day while I was reading about how the human body works, I came across a fact that totally changed my perspective. The air that goes through our nose doesn't just fill us with oxygen, it also gets enriched with nitric oxide, a molecule that boosts circulation and helps oxygen absorption. It was a real eye-opener. I thought about how many times I'd just let my breathing be all over the place, chaotic and unstructured. Asterisk, how many chances had I wasted to optimize my body and mind with something so simple? Nitric oxide wasn't the only eye-opener. I learned that the nose warms and moistens the air, protecting the lungs from dryness and extreme temperatures. It also acts like a filter, trapping particles and bacteria that could make us sick. Suddenly, my nose stopped being just something ordinary and became a powerful tool I'd ignored for way too long. I started paying attention to how things changed. My breathing was affecting my daily life. During meetings, I noticed I could stay calm if I breathed through my nose. In stressful moments, just a longer nasal exhale helped me focus. It was like discovering a superpower that had been hiding in plain sight. But I kept wondering, why didn't anyone teach me this before? Why don't we talk more about nasal breathing? I shared these thoughts with the people around me. Their reactions were always the same: surprise and curiosity. Some people looked at me with disbelief, even skepticism. But when I encouraged them to try it, when I asked them to close their mouths and feel the air passing through their nostrils, something changed. It's easier to focus, some told me. I feel less anxious, others confessed. That's when I realized I wasn't alone in this search. Lots of people were eager to find something that helped them reconnect with themselves. On this journey, I also discovered that breathing through the nose doesn't just affect ... not just our body, but also our mind. Studies show that breathing in and out through the nose activates parts of the brain linked to memory and emotion. This made me wonder how many important memories might have been shaped by the way I was breathing at those moments. How many crucial decisions did I make while breathing in a messy, chaotic way? Now, when I sit in front of the mirror every morning, the first thing I do isn't check my reflection, but rather notice how I'm feeling. Breathing is a way to reconnect, a reminder that I have the power to impact my well-being with something so simple, yet so amazing. And you, reading these words, how are you breathing right now? Maybe it's time to close your eyes, feel the air moving in and out through your nose, and appreciate that natural filter that works tirelessly for you. Because the science of nasal breathing isn't just about numbers and facts, it's also about how it quietly changes our lives. But deep down, you're ready to let the secrets of the diaphragm, the muscle of life, transform you. One day, while researching the connection between body and mind, I came across a term that sounded familiar, but I had never really paid much attention to: the diaphragm. I knew it was a muscle involved in breathing, but I thought of it as just another functional part in the complex machinery of the human body. I didn't know then that I was about to uncover one of the ... the most powerful secrets of life. The first time I truly understood what the diaphragm was, it was during a conversation with a physical therapist. Muscle, he told me. It's the bridge between calm and chaos, between automatic living and conscious living. Those words sparked my curiosity, but it wasn't until I started experimenting on my own that I really grasped its depth. I remember the exact day I was sitting in a chair, worn out from the constant noise of my thoughts. I closed my eyes and took a ... I tried hard to take a deep breath, but I didn't feel the stretch I was expecting. "You're breathing wrong," I told myself quietly. Then a thought popped up like a spark. What if this muscle I've been ignoring all this time holds the key to releasing the tension built up in my body and soul? I decided to go deeper. I placed my hands on my lower ribs, trying to feel something, anything that would show me what was really going on with my breathing with each inhale. I imagined my diaphragm expanding like an umbrella, opening up a space inside me where calm could live. With each breath out, I pictured the muscle relaxing and carrying away all my worries. It was a small, almost insignificant exercise, but it marked the start of a change. What I found out later was amazing. The diaphragm doesn't just affect how we breathe. It also impacts our posture, how our organs work, and even our ability to handle stress. Stressed as muscle hidden under the ribs is, like a conductor, keeping the body in harmony. When it's tense or inactive, chaos seeps into every corner of our lives. But when we learn to use it right, we can unlock hidden potential. I kept wondering, why didn't anyone teach me this before? How many of us go through life breathing shallowly, ignoring the huge capacity of our diaphragm? It's not just a mistake, it's a waste. This muscle doesn't just support the ... breathing not only connects us with our deepest emotions, but have you noticed how your body feels when you're anxious or scared? Your diaphragm tightens like it's trying to protect you. But when you're calm, it moves freely, like a dance reminding us that we're alive. I started making this a part of my daily routine. Before making big decisions, I'd take a moment to breathe, deeply letting my diaphragm guide me toward clarity during tough times. Stress used movement to calm my mind. It was like this forgotten muscle was teaching me how to live again with purpose and balance. But the real breakthrough came when I shared this practice with others. Close your eyes, I'd say. Put your hands on your ribs and feel them expand. With each breath, let your diaphragm guide you, like a rudder in the middle of a storm. The results were immediate. People who had been struggling with anxiety for years started to finding little moments of peace. Others noticed improvements in their energy, posture, even digestion. People often ask me, is the diaphragm really that important? My answer is always the same. The diaphragm is the root of your breath, and therefore your life. If you learn to use it consciously, you can change not just how you breathe, but how you live. Nowadays, every time I take a deep breath, I feel immense gratitude for this muscle I ignored for so long. It's a constant reminder that even though the answers we're looking for often seem complicated, but many times they're hidden in the simplest things. Have you felt the power of your diaphragm today? Take a moment, place your hands on your belly, and let this muscle of life remind you what it really means to be truly alive. How breathing affects mental and emotional health. I had spent weeks in an emotional storm. Worries piling up in my mind like heavy gray clouds full of electricity, ready to I felt like I could snap at any moment. I kept trying to fix everything with logic, but the more I tried to find solutions, the more stuck I felt. Then someone close to me said something that changed how I saw things. Your mind follows the rhythm of your breathing. If you want to calm your mind, start by calming your breath. The idea was so simple I almost brushed it off, but something about those words stuck with me. Could my breathing, something so basic and automatic, actually have the power to affect my emotions? The mental storm dragging me down? I decided to try this out, not because I was sure it'd work, but because I desperately needed some relief that night. As silence filled the room, I sat up straight and closed my eyes for the first time in ages. I focused on my breathing. It was shallow and quick, like I was stuck in a never-ending loop of tension. I remembered what my friend said and forced myself to breathe deeper. Inhaling through my nose and letting the I imagined the air filling every corner of my being as I exhaled. Letting go of all the day's worries with my breath. The change didn't happen right away, but something started to shift inside me. With every deep breath, I felt the invisible knots in my mind begin to untangle. I realized that anxiety, that old familiar guest who always showed up uninvited, fed off my shaky breathing. When I was in chaos, my breath showed it. But when I breathed calmly and deeply, something inside me changed. This started to make sense. And it led me to ask a question that would change everything. Could breathing be the key to accessing a calmer mind and more balanced emotions? The answer I found was a definite yes. Over time, I learned that every emotion has its own breathing pattern. When you're angry, you breathe fast and shallow. When you're sad, your breath gets heavy, almost like a sigh. But the most eye-opening thing was realizing it could work the other way around, to changing my breathing. Changing my mood was like having a remote control for my feelings, and breathing was the main button. I started using this trick. Every day, whenever anxiety crept in, I'd stop everything and take a deep breath. Counting to 4 as I inhaled, holding it for a moment, then slowly exhaling. It was a small but powerful act. Over time, I realized it didn't just calm my mind, it also helped me make clearer decisions. I remember one specific time when this practice really made a big difference. It was an important meeting and my mind was full of doubts and insecurities. My breathing had become shallow, and I could feel the tension building up in my chest. Before going in, I paused for a moment, closed my eyes, and took several deep breaths. When I finally walked into the room, something had changed. It wasn't just my posture or energy, but also my confidence. My mind was clear and focused, ready to act. Breathing doesn't just affect the mind, it also changes your emotions. I started to notice that I felt more present, more able to handle daily challenges without getting overwhelmed. I realized deep breathing was like an anchor in the middle of a storm, a constant reminder that I always had something under control, even when everything else seemed to be slipping away. What about you? Have you noticed how you breathe when you're overwhelmed? Maybe even right now? When you read these words, take a moment to pause, close your eyes, and feel the air moving in and out of your body. It's such a simple act, but in that simplicity lies incredible power. Your breath is your ally, your safe place, your way back to calm. Because in the end, we're not just breathing air, we're breathing life, clarity, balance. And when we learn to breathe with intention, we learn to live with purpose. So take a deep breath right now. Feel how this small act can change everything. Breathing techniques to ease the stress and anxiety. I'd had a really tough day one. Of those where everything seems to go wrong, work, personal worries, unmet expectations. It all piled up like an invisible weight on my shoulders. That night, as I sat quietly, I realized something important. I couldn't control what was happening around me, but maybe I could control how I dealt with it. That's when I remembered a piece of advice I'd heard years ago. It's almost like a forgotten whisper. When my mind was all over the place, I went back to focusing on my breath. It somehow knows how to bring you back to calm. I wasn't sure how to do it at first, but something about those words sparked a little hope in me. I decided to give it a try. That night, I closed my eyes and let my breathing guide me. I took a deep breath in through my nose, counting to 4, then breathed out while counting to 6. At first, it felt like a useless little exercise. But after a few minutes, something inside me started to shift my chest, which had been tight before. My mind started to relax. It had been a whirlwind of thoughts, but began to calm down. It felt like with every exhale, I was letting go of little bits of the stress I'd been holding on to. This experience pushed me to look for other techniques that could help me in those moments when anxiety seemed to take over. I started researching and trying things out, and pretty soon I found methods that changed not just how I breathe, but also how I face life. One of the first techniques was ... What I tried was the 4-7-8 breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold the air for 7, and exhale slowly for 8. At first, I had a hard time keeping the rhythm, but over time I realized this practice was like a balm for my mind. Whenever I felt overwhelmed by stress, I turned to this exercise and found a break, both literally and emotionally. Another technique that made a difference was alternate nostril breathing, placing a finger over one nostril and inhaling through the other. Then ... breathing out was a simple thing, but it had an amazing effect. After just a few rounds, I felt my mind clear up, like someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. I also found out about the power of long exhales. I'd read that breathing out longer than you breathe in activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the one that helps us relax and feel safe. So, I started practicing it during stressful moments. Inhale for 3 seconds. Exhale for 5. Little by little, I felt my body relaxing, like I was letting go of a heavy weight I'd been carrying for hours. But what really stuck with me wasn't the scientific stuff behind these techniques. It was the connection I felt with my own body while doing them. It was like I was rediscovering a part of myself that had always been there, just waiting to be heard. Every mindful breath reminded me that no matter how crazy the storm got, there was always a safe place I could turn to. I remember one day in particular when these techniques saved my calm. I was about to walk into a crucial meeting and my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. I stepped aside for a moment, closed my eyes, and started doing the 4-7-8 breathing. By the time I finished, my mind was clear, my energy focused, and I was able to face the situation with a calm I never thought possible. How many times have you let stress steal your peace? Maybe like me, you didn't even realize it. The sun feels so close, so within reach. Breathing doesn't need tools or excuses. It just needs your attention. Today, I invite you to give it a try. Close your eyes. Pick one of these techniques and take a few minutes to reconnect with yourself. You'll find, like I did, that stress and anxiety don't have to be your constant companions. You have the power to change them, to transform, to let them go with every exhale. Because in every breath, there's a chance to start fresh. The importance of the tongue and proper breathing hit me one quiet afternoon when someone asked me a simple question that totally changed how I understood breathing. Where do you place Your tongue when you breathe? I laughed, thinking it was a silly question. But the lack of an answer showed me a gap in my knowledge I couldn't ignore. How could something so small and seemingly insignificant, like the position of my tongue, affect my well-being? That night, while ... I was quietly reflecting and decided to pay attention to my tongue. That muscle I'd always taken for granted. I realized it moved unconsciously, like a distracted passenger on a never-ending journey. It should be relaxed. Resting against the roof of the mouth, or just floating? The question intrigued me more than I wanted to admit. The next day, I started researching. What I found was surprising. The tongue doesn't just affect how we talk or eat, but also how we breathe. And therefore, I learned that our overall health can be affected by a poorly positioned tongue, which can block the airways and encourage mouth breathing, that quiet habit that slowly harms us. But when the tongue is properly placed, gently resting against the roof of the mouth, it acts like an anchor, guiding the air the right way and promoting efficient nose breathing. I remember one especially eye-opening night when I was practicing a breathing technique and deliberately placed my tongue in ... the roof of my mouth right behind my upper teeth. Just like I had read, felt like something clicked into place, like my whole body recognized that move as natural, almost ancient. My breathing got deeper, smoother. I felt like I was giving my body a tool it always needed but never knew how to ask for. Still, it wasn't easy at first. My tongue, used to moving without purpose, seemed to fight back. But over time, it started to find its home, and I didn't. Just noticed that changes in my breathing also brought improvements in my posture, the tension in my jaw, and, interestingly, my mental focus. It was like that small action was setting off a domino effect, impacting parts of my life I never connected to breathing before. One day, while talking to a friend, I shared what I'd learned. "It seems so insignificant," he said. "Can the position of the tongue really make that much of a difference?" I smiled because I'd thought the same thing at first. But I invited him to ... try putting your tongue against the roof of your mouth while breathing through your nose, I suggested. She did it, and after a moment, she looked at me with a mix of surprise and curiosity. "I feel like I can breathe better," she admitted. The position of the tongue isn't just some anatomical detail, it's a reminder that small things, when done with intention, can have a powerful impact. It's not just about where your tongue is, but what it represents. A conscious act of returning to balance and honoring the perfect design of our body, right now. Every time I take a conscious breath, I feel my tongue guiding the air, acting like a quiet guardian of my well-being. It's a simple act, but really meaningful. On days when stress feels overwhelming, I remind myself that even something as small as my tongue can bring me back to control, that I can always return to the present moment. If maybe you've never thought about it before, I invite you to gently press it against the ... The palate breathes through the nose, and you can feel the difference, because sometimes what seems insignificant is actually the key, not just to changing how we breathe, but also how we live our daily routines. To change the way you breathe, it doesn't happen overnight. This simple but powerful truth became my guide as I started on the path to transform my breathing. I had learned a lot: the importance of the nose, the role of the diaphragm, the position of the tongue, but ... knowing wasn't enough. I needed to turn that knowledge into daily action, into habits that would shape not just how I breathe, but how I face life. I remember the morning I decided there'd be no more excuses. I got up with this urgent feeling, like something inside me knew it was time to take control. While washing my face, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Today's the day. Everything starts to change." Those words, I committed to building simple but effective routines. To retrain my breathing, the first step was learning to pause. We live in a world that pushes us to keep moving nonstop. But I realized breathing needs space. It needs time. Every morning, before checking my phone or facing anything, I'd sit quietly, close my eyes, rest my hands on my belly, and just breathe. Take a deep breath in through my nose, feeling my diaphragm expand, then slowly breathe out, letting go of any tension I had. The buildup overnight was brief, just about 5 minutes, but it had a deep impact. It was my way of telling my body, I'm here, I'm with you, and everything's okay. Another practice that became essential for me was bringing mindful breathing into my daily activities. While walking to work, I'd sync my steps with my breath. Inhale for 3 steps, exhale for 5. This simple technique not only helped me keep a steady pace, but also grounded me. Recently, I realized that doing this helped my mind stop wandering through worries and focus on the here and now. In the afternoons, I'd usually take a few minutes to practice alternate nostril breathing, a method I learned during my studies. I'd put a finger over one nostril, breathe in deeply through the other, then switch when exhaling. This exercise didn't just calm me down, it also seemed to balance my energy, like it was tuning something inside me that had been off. Still, the biggest challenge, what changed everything for me was how I breathed while sleeping. I had spent years breathing through my mouth at night, a habit that drained my energy and messed with my rest. So, I decided to try something I'd read about. Gently taping my lips shut with a small piece of medical tape to make sure I breathed through my nose while sleeping. At first, it felt weird, even uncomfortable, but the results were amazing. I started waking up feeling more refreshed, more alive, if my body was finally healing like it should. These habits, though, simple changed my life. They weren't magic, fixes, or empty promises. They were concrete actions repeated day after day that made a real difference. Because transformation isn't about big efforts every now and then, it's about small, steady steps that, over time, get us where we want to be. Now I wonder, what could you achieve if you committed to changing the way you breathe? Maybe you don't feel like it now, do you have time? Or is it too late to change? Well, let me tell you this, every breath is a chance to start over. You don't need to do it perfectly, you just need to do it. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and take the first step. Because every moment of the day, with every mindful breath, you're choosing something bigger than just breathing. You're choosing to live fully. I realized the impact of breathing on sleep and recovery during a particularly restless night. Something important happened. My body was exhausted, but my mind kept racing. I was stuck in a cycle of insomnia that seemed endless. The harder I tried to force myself to sleep, the more sleep slipped away from me. Frustrated, I found myself wondering what was really keeping me from resting. The answer came in a sudden moment of clarity. Sitting in the dim light, with the silence of the night as my only company, I noticed my breathing was shallow and uneven, like my body was always on high alert. That's when I remembered something I'd learned a while back. Our breathing doesn't just keep us alive, it's also the key to unlocking a deep, restful sleep. I decided to give it a try that very night. I lay down, closed my eyes, and focused all my attention on my breathing. I took a deep breath in through my nose, letting the air fill not just my lungs but my whole body, like I was inflating an invisible balloon from my belly up to my chest. Then I slowly breathed out everything I'd just taken in, letting the air carry away the day's built-up tension with each breath. I felt my body start to relax, like I was being led into a calm state I'd forgotten even existed. The first time I tried, it wasn't perfect. My mind kept wandering, looking for problems to solve, even in the dark room. But I stayed steady, bringing my focus back to my breathing again and again. Then something magical happened. Deep sleep took over me, one I hadn't felt in a long time. When I woke up, I felt refreshed, like my body and mind had found some lost balance. That got me curious about how breathing affects sleep. I found out that the way we breathe before bed can really impact how well we rest. If we breathe shallowly or through our mouth, our body stays on high alert, triggering the fight or flight system. But when we breathe deeply and consciously through our nose, it activates. The parasympathetic nervous system helps us relax and get a good night's sleep. One technique that became my go-to was the 4-7-8 method. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 7, and then slowly exhale for 8. This simple pattern didn't just help me fall asleep faster. It also calmed my mind when it felt impossible to switch off. Another change I made was making sure my nasal airways stayed clear beforehand. I found out that when your nose is blocked, you're more likely to breathe through your mouth, which messes up your sleep quality. So, doing a gentle nasal rinse before bed became part of my nightly routine, a small step that made a big difference. And of course, I can't forget how breathing affects recovery on those days when your body's worn out, whether from exercise or stress. I learned that slow, deep breathing helps speed up the process. Recovery feels like oxygen, not just fueling my muscles, but also my spirit, bringing back the energy I thought was gone. Now, every night when I get ready to sleep, I do it with a fresh intention. My breathing has become a bridge between the chaos of the day and the calm of the night, a sacred ritual reminding me that even in rest, I can be mindful and present. How about you? How do you breathe before bed? Maybe you've never thought about it. I invite you to give it a try tonight. Take a few minutes to breathe deeply, feeling the air fill your body. And with each exhale, let go of the day's tension. Sleep isn't just a need, it's a gift. One we can improve by taking control of our breathing. With each mindful breath before bed, you're choosing to wake up with more energy, clarity, and peace. So close your eyes, breathe, and let sleep do what it does best, restore you from the inside out. Breathing and getting back to the natural way, one ordinary day. I realized that something as simple as breathing had turned into an automatic, almost robotic act. Like many people, I used to think breathing was just something the body did on its own, without effort or attention. But that belief had made me live disconnected from one of life's most essential forces. How many of us just breathe to survive, forgetting that every breath in is a chance to renew and heal? Living with intention hit me while I was reading an apparently insignificant article about how babies naturally breathe perfectly, using their diaphragms and filling their bodies with air smoothly and effortlessly. When do we lose that instinctive ability? How does something so pure turn into a bad habit over the years? That night, sitting in the quiet of my room, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years: pay attention to myself. I closed my eyes and noticed what I found wasn't pretty short. Shallow breaths going in and out of my chest, like I was stuck in a constant state of alert. My body had forgotten how to breathe deeply, how to expand and relax with each inhale and exhale. It was a moment of clarity, but also humility. It was time to relearn what once came naturally. The first step was simple. Go back to the beginning, back to the basics. I lay down. I was lying on the floor, one hand on my chest and the other on my belly, breathing slowly and letting my stomach rise with each breath. At first it felt awkward, almost forced. My mind, used to the daily grind, wanted to get distracted, but something inside me pushed me to keep going. With every breath, I felt something starting to change, not just in my body, but in my mind too. It was like I was undoing years of built-up tension, layer by layer, breath by breath. But the road to feeling natural wasn't easy. There were days when I totally forgot my intention, caught up in the chaos of life. But I always found my way back through little reminders, and alarm on my phone telling me to take a deep breath, a note on my desk reminding me to pause. Even just looking up at the sky and remembering that every cloud, every breeze was tied to my own breathing. I realized that relearning how to breathe wasn't just a physical thing, but an emotional one too. Sometimes when taking deep breaths, I felt trapped emotions surfacing like waves: sadness, relief, gratitude. Breathing once shallow and tight started opening doors I didn't even know were closed. I remember one day in particular walking through a nearby park practicing mindful breathing, matching my steps with my inhales and exhales. Suddenly, I felt this deep peace and stopped dead in my tracks. It was a moment of connection with life, with the present. I realized I wasn't alone. Just relearning how to breathe was like relearning how to live.
Ow.
Every breath I take reminds me that we can always find our way back to the natural path, no matter how far we've strayed. Breathing isn't just something we do, it's a bridge to our true self, a way to find balance and harmony. So how are you breathing right now? Maybe you've never really thought about it, but I invite you to do it now. Put a hand on your belly, feel the air going in and out. Let yourself remember what's always been there. Asterisk, I've been with you through the transformative power of your own breath. Learning to breathe again isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's a journey back to what's essential, authentic, and natural. And with every step along the way, you'll realize that by changing your breathing, you're also shaping your life. The power of slow exhales, calming the heart. It was on one of those days when time seemed to speed up faster than I could handle that I discovered this. My heart was pounding like it was trying to keep up. My mind was spinning non-stop, jumping between to-do lists, worries, and goals. I remember reading somewhere that calm doesn't come from big gestures, but something as small as a breath. I clung to that idea like a castaway holding onto a piece of wood in the middle of the ocean. I sat down, closed my eyes, and tuned into my body. The first thing I noticed was my breath fast, shallow, and all over the place like it was mirroring the chaos inside me. I decided to try something different. I took a deep breath, counting to 4, then slowly exhaled, stretching the breath out to 6, then 7, even 8. At first, I didn't feel anything except the discomfort of breaking my usual rhythm. Then something unexpected happened. With each long exhale, I felt my racing heart start to calm down. It was like every slow breath was sending a message to my body. It's okay, you can relax. There's no need to rush. That's when I finally understood. The power of slow breaths wasn't just a physical act, it was a statement of intent. Way to tell the world that no matter the chaos outside, I could find my center. I started digging deeper into this, and what I found blew me away. Turns out, when we exhale slowly, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the one that helps us rest, digest, and heal. It's like hitting an internal pause button, something we all have inside but hardly ever use. Since then, the ... slow breaths became my go-to. I practiced them in the simplest, everyday moments, while waiting in line, stuck in unbearable traffic, or even when I hear unsettling news. It's a constant reminder that I get to choose how I react, that my breath is an anchor keeping me steady, even in the roughest waters. One day I shared this practice with a friend going through a tough time, showing how something so simple can help. "Can you help me?" he asked skeptically. I encouraged him to try it. Breathe in for 4 seconds, then breathe out. But do it as slowly as you can. Imagine you're letting go of all the weight you're carrying with that breath. He did it, and when he finished, he looked at me with a mix of surprise and relief. "Like my chest feels lighter," he admitted. Slow exhalations don't just calm your heart, they also connect your mind to the present. They force us to pause, to feel, to just be in a world that's always pushing us forward. This simple act brings us back to the moment. Remember, life isn't lived in the future or the past, but right here, right now. Whenever I feel my heart racing or my mind getting noisy, I close my eyes and let my breath guide me back to calm. It's not just about letting air out. It's about releasing fears, tensions, and expectations. It's about finding peace in the simplest things, the things that have always been with me. Have you ever tried the power of your breath? Maybe now's the time to give it a shot. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath, then exhale slower than you think you can. Feel your heart respond. Notice how your thoughts quiet down. Because with every slow breath out, there's a reminder, calm is inside you, just waiting to be found. Breathing in sports. How to boost your performance? It all started one afternoon when I was trying to beat my 5K time. My body was ready-eyed, been training for weeks. But no matter how determined I was, each step felt heavier than the last. My chest was burning, my muscles, ... They were gasping for air, and my overthinking mind started filling up with doubts. Why is this so hard? What am I doing wrong? Exhausted and defeated, I sat down on the ground and began to reflect. Then a coach came up to me and said something I'll never forget. It's not just your body that needs training, your breathing does too. If you learn to breathe right, you won't just run faster, you'll do it with less effort. That phrase stuck with me. Maybe it was my breathing Something I always took for granted as automatic was actually limiting my performance. So I decided to dig deeper and experiment. That's how I found out that breathing not only supplies oxygen to our body, but also shapes our endurance, energy, and ultimately our physical performance. The first thing I learned was that most of us breathe shallowly during exercise, barely filling the top part of our lungs. This way of breathing leaves us without the oxygen we really need to get my muscles working at their best. I started practicing diaphragmatic breathing, focusing on expanding my belly with each breath in and making sure to fully exhale, pushing out all the leftover air from my lungs. At first it felt weird, even unnatural, but over time, I noticed I could run longer distances without getting tired so fast. One of the biggest breakthroughs happened when I began syncing my breathing with my movements. I found that when I inhaled and breathing out in a steady rhythm, like 3 steps to breathe in, 2 to breathe out, I'm not only kept a consistent pace, but also stopped me from getting tired. This simple change totally changed how I ran and how I saw exercise. It wasn't a struggle anymore. It felt like a dance between my body and my breath. The impact didn't just stay with running. When I lifted weights, I focused on breathing out during the hard part, pushing the air out as I lifted, and filling back up as I lowered. This not only made me stronger, but also it also protected my body by stabilizing my core and preventing unnecessary strain. But it wasn't all easy. There were times when my mind wanted to slip back into old habits, breathing erratically, under pressure. Every time I felt like I was losing control, I reminded myself that my breath was my anchor, my guide. When I controlled my breathing, I controlled my performance. Once I shared these techniques with a friend who's a cyclist, and he told me that even though he was great shape, but often felt low on energy during climbs. I suggested he try taking deep breaths in through the nose and slowly exhaling through the mouth, focusing on lengthening the exhale to keep a steady rhythm. A few weeks later, he wrote me, excited. I never thought something as simple as changing my breathing could make such a big difference. Now, every time I work out, my breathing is a key part of my routine. It's not just a tool to boost my physical performance, but also a little reminder that even in the toughest moments, you have the power to stay connected and present. Hey, while you're breathing as you move, maybe you've never really thought about it, but I invite you to give it a try next time you go for a run, lift weights, or even just take a walk. Pay attention to your breath. Let it guide you, set your pace, and give you the energy you need. Because with every inhale, there's strength, and with every exhale, there's release. Learning to breathe right will change everything. Performance in sports will also change how you handle every challenge in life. Breathe, move, and find out what you're truly capable of. The link between breathing and self-esteem. There were days when, despite all the achievements I'd stacked up, I felt this unexplainable emptiness, a shadow that clouded my sense of self-worth. I kept asking myself why I felt not good enough. Even when everything around me seemed fine, that question kept running through my mind. And even though I looked for answers in books and conversations, even with material success, nothing seemed to fill that void. It was on one of those days that I found myself in a talk about the connection between body and mind. The speaker mentioned something that really hit home for me. The way we breathe reflects how we feel about ourselves. That idea stuck with me, like an echo. Could it be that my breathing, something so basic and automatic, was connected to my self-esteem? That night, I paused to pay attention to my own breathing. What I discovered was, I was breathing shallowly, almost like I was, holding my breath as if I didn't deserve the space I was taking up. How many times do we do this without even realizing it, limiting something as basic as our own breathing? I decided to change that. I closed my eyes, placed my hands on my belly, and took a deep breath, letting the air fill every corner of me. As I exhaled, I did it slowly, imagining I was letting go of all my doubts, insecurities, and negative thoughts. They said it wasn't enough. I repeated this process over and over, and with every breath, I felt something incredible. It was like reconnecting with a part of myself. I had forgotten a part that knew I was valuable, just for existing. Over time, I started to notice patterns. The days I felt most confident were the ones where my breathing was deep and steady, while on the days doubt took over, my breath became short and shaky. That's when I realized that ... my self-esteem. It wasn't just about what I thought, but also how my body reacted to those thoughts. And breathing was the link between the two. One exercise that changed how I related to myself was called affirmative breathing. Every morning before starting my day, I'd sit quietly and take deep breaths while repeating affirmations in my mind like I am enough. I am capable. I am worthy. With each breath in, I felt like I was filling myself up with those truths. With each breath out, I let go of any limiting belief. I remember one day in particular when this really made a difference. I was invited to give a presentation in front of a big group, and even though I was prepared, doubt started creeping in just minutes before going on stage. Instead of letting the nerves take over, I closed my eyes and focused on my breathing. I took a deep breath in, telling myself, "You're ready. You have something valuable to share." As I breathed out, I released any fear. I got on stage with a new kind of confidence, not because everything was perfect, but because I was at peace with myself. I learned that self-esteem isn't just a mindset, it's a daily practice. It's the conscious act of reminding yourself, with every breath, that you belong here, that you have worth, that you're enough. It's a reminder that even on tough days, your breath is there with you, ready to bring you back to the present and to the truth of who you are. And now I ask you, how are you breathing right now? If you haven't noticed, but I invite you to do so. Take a deep breath, full of intention, and exhale all those doubts about your own worth. Because every time you choose to breathe with purpose, you're choosing to believe in yourself. The connection between breathing and self-esteem is deeper than we think. When we change the way we breathe, we change how we see ourselves. And when we start seeing ourselves with love and respect, ... the world responds accordingly. So take a deep breath and remember, you are already enough. Letting go of the past, breathing as a tool for healing, was during a quiet night while the world slept that I found myself trapped under the weight of my own memories. They were like silent shadows, whispering stories from the past, reminding me of moments I'd rather forget. I wondered how much of my present is being stolen by what I can no longer change. In that moment, I realized something powerful. My breath. My breathing was shallow and uneven, like it was stuck in the past, too. That's when I decided to try something different. Closed my eyes, placed one hand on my chest and the other on my belly, and took a deep breath through my nose, letting the air fill every corner of me. As I exhaled, I imagined the breath carrying away everything I no longer needed. It was simple, but I felt like something inside me was being set free. From that night on, I started to explore breathing more deeply. I found out that when we're stuck in old wounds, our breathing gets tight, like our body is protecting us from something that's no longer there. But when we breathe mindfully, we send a message to ourselves that it's safe to let go, safe to move on. One technique that became my go-to was release breathing. Sitting somewhere quiet, I'd close my eyes and, as I breathed in, focus on bringing any emotion or memory that needed attention into the present. Letting go meant allowing it to come up without judging it, just watching it. Then, as I exhaled, I pictured that memory or feeling fading away, like the air was carrying it off. Sometimes tears would come unexpectedly, but they weren't from sadness. They were tears of relief. From a healing I didn't even know I needed. I remember one particularly transformative experience. I had been carrying a guilt I'd felt for years, a past mistake that had silently haunted me. During one of those moments, ... with each breath, I decided to face that memory. With every inhale, I let the guilt come up, acknowledging its weight. But with every exhale, I told myself, it's over. I forgive myself. I let go. When I finished, I felt a lightness I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't that the memory was gone, but it no longer had power over me. I learned that breathing isn't just a physical tool, it's a bridge to our inner selves. It's a way to connect with the parts of us that need care. Healing is a way to reconnect with the present, to remind ourselves that we're not our past stories, but the being that breathes here and now. Once I shared this practice with someone close to me who had been struggling with a recent loss. I explained what I had learned and invited them to try release breathing. After a few days, they told me that even though the pain was still there, they felt less trapped by it. It's like my heart has more room to breathe, they said. And that's what it means to let go of the past. It doesn't mean forgetting it, but learning to live with it without letting it consume us. It means accepting that, even though we can't change what happened, we can decide how it affects us now. Breathing is our ally in this process, reminding us that every exhale is a chance to let go, heal, and start over. So I ask you now, what part of your past are you carrying right now? Maybe it's something you haven't faced yet, or maybe it's a weight you didn't even realize you were carrying. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and with each exhale, let go a little more. You don't have to do it all at once. Healing is a process, not a destination. Because in the end, every breath is an act of self-love, a reminder that you deserve to live free, unchained from what's already happened. Breathe out, relax, and feel how bit by bit the present fills with life, your life, a balance between body and mind. Pran lamas for well-being. I remember the day when my body and mind seemed to be in a constant fight, my mind racing, frantically jumping from one thought to another while my body felt heavy and tired, like I couldn't keep up. It was in that moment of disconnect that someone said something that really stuck with me. The bridge between your body and mind is your breath. If you control one, you balance the other. The idea was simple, but I had no clue how to actually do it. That's when I heard about pranayama's breathing. Techniques that not only strengthen your body, but also calm and focus your mind. Intrigued, I decided to learn more. What I found wasn't just a set of exercises, but a whole philosophy, a powerful tool that promised to help me restore that lost balance. My first experience with pranayama was with Nadi Shodhana, the alternate nostril breathing. At first, it seemed like just another exercise. Something mechanical. I'd close one nostril with my finger and breathe through the other, switching back and forth at a steady rhythm. But as I kept going, I started to feel something shift. Like with every cycle, my mind cleared up a bit, like the noise was starting to fade away, and it ended. I didn't just feel a calm I hadn't felt in days. I also got this clarity that helped me see my thoughts more clearly. Another technique that really stuck with me was Kapalabhati, also known as fire breathing. The focus there was on short, quick exhales, like the steady beat of your body. First it felt weird, almost forced, but I soon realized this exercise not only oxygenates my body, but also ... It filled my mind with renewed energy on days when I felt down or unmotivated. Kapalabhati became my go-to tool to awaken my spirit. Pranayama isn't just a set of exercises. It's a conversation between the body and mind where both work together to create harmony. It reminds us that even though we live in a world that constantly pushes us outward, true balance starts from within. There was one moment in particular when ... he showed me the real power of these techniques. I was facing a big decision, a crossroads that felt way too heavy. My mind was clouded with doubt, and my body was tense, with a constant knot in my stomach. Instead of looking for answers outside, I sat quietly and practiced Anulam Vilame, type of alternate breathing. With each breath cycle, I felt my body relax and my mind calm down. It was in that balanced state that the answer I was looking for came to me. It wasn't something I figured out logically, but more like a deep gut feeling that led me to start including pranayamas in my daily routine. I didn't see it as a chore, but as a gift to myself. In the mornings, I'd do Bhastrika, the intense breathing, to fill myself with energy. Around noon, when fatigue started creeping in, I'd turn to Kapalabhati to stay focused. And at night, before going to bed, Nadi Shodhana became my go-to ritual to release the day's tension. What I learned along the way is that true balance between body and mind isn't something that happens by chance. It isn't just luck, it's a conscious choice we make every day. Pranayamas are the key to opening that door to well-being. So, tell me, When was the last time you really listened to both your body and mind at the same time? Maybe, like me, you've been disconnected, letting one take over the other. But I invite you to try this. Spend a few minutes a day focusing on your breath with these exercises. They're simple but have the power to change how you feel. Live, close your eyes, pick a pranayama, and start. Feel the air going in and out, how with each breath your body and mind come a little closer. Because balance isn't something you find out there in the world, it's something you create inside, one breath at a time. The path to a mindful life is breath and presence. I had spent years rushing, always chasing the next goal, the next target. My days flowed like a fast-moving river, and even though sometimes I managed to ... what I was trying to do, I couldn't help but feel empty. It was like in my constant search for a racer, I'd forgotten how to just be. One afternoon, while wandering aimlessly through a park, I stopped in front of a towering tree. I watched its leaves sway in the wind, its roots seeming to hug the earth with unshakable calm. That's when a question popped into my head. When was the last time I was truly present? I had no answer. My mind was always caught up in the future, or the past is never really in the moment right in front of me. It was then that I remembered something someone once told me. Breathing is the key to coming back to the present. If you can control it, you can control your presence. That night, sitting quietly in my room, I decided to try it. I closed my eyes, breathed in deeply, and exhaled, focusing only on the air going in and out of my body. At first, my mind fought it, jumping from one thought to another, like it didn't want to stay still. But I stayed strong and kept coming back. Over and over, I focused on my breathing. Like with each inhale, I was gathering the scattered pieces of my attention, and with each exhale, I was putting them back in place. What I found in that exercise was eye-opening. Not only did I feel calmer, but I also felt more connected to myself and the present moment. It was like I'd opened a door to a whole dimension that had always been there, but I'd never explored before. I started practicing this every day during the simplest moments. Like while I was brushing my teeth or walking to work, I'd remind myself, breathe, you're here. This is the only moment that matters. Little by little, my life started to change. The small things I used to overlook, the sound of the leaves, the warmth of the sun on my skin, the steady rhythm of my steps became little reminders of the beauty of the moment. I took a deep breath, filling myself with calm, and slowly exhaled. Letting go of all my worries with each breath, I came back to the present. Not only did I feel more confident, but I also connected with the people around me in a more genuine way. I realized then that breathing isn't just a physical act, it's an anchor. A reminder that we don't have to get stuck in the chaos of our minds. Every inhale invites us to be in the moment, and every exhale helps us let go of what we don't need. It's such a simple process, but it has the power to change everything. Living mindfully doesn't mean living without problems. Challenges aren't about avoiding them, but facing them with clarity and presence. It lets us fully experience each moment without distractions or rushing. Our breath is our guide on this path. I invite you to try it now. Pause wherever you are. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel the air fill your body. And slowly breathe out, letting go of any tension. Do it again, but this time, pay attention to the space between the inhale and the exhale. That moment of stillness is the present. And that's where you are. You can always come back because the path to a mindful life isn't some far off destination. It's a bunch of small steps, one breath at a time. When you learn to breathe with intention, you learn to live with purpose, and through that, you realize the present moment is all you really need to feel truly alive. Myths and truths about belly breathing. It wasn't until I went through a really stressful period that I first heard the term belly breathing. Remember reading that, ... The technique was the key to calm, focus, and better healthy. It almost seemed like magic. But at the same time, it made me wonder, how true was this really? Could something as simple as breathing from your belly actually change how you feel? I decided to look into it. The first thing I found out was that lots of people, myself included, didn't know how to breathe properly from the belly. We'd gotten so used to shallow, fast, chest-centered breaths that we'd lost touch with our natural way of breathing. Natural breathing is the kind that comes from the diaphragm, but I also ran into myths that made it harder to understand. Some said abdominal breathing was a miracle cure for everything, while others dismissed it as unnecessary or irrelevant. That confusion pushed me to try it out myself. One night after a really exhausting day, I lay down on the floor, put one hand on my chest and the other on my belly, and started paying attention to my breathing. As I expected, my chest moved more than ... I decided to change how I breathe and took a deep breath, imagining I was blowing up a balloon in my belly. Then I exhaled, letting all the air out. At first it felt weird, almost forced, but with each breath, something inside me started to shift. I felt my body relax, my mind calm down, and my energy balance out. Over time, I realized the truth behind the myths. One of the most common ones was that belly breathing is an instant fix for stress. While it's a helpful tool, it's not a magic cure. I realized it's not some magic switch. It's actually a practice that takes consistency and awareness. Every time I faced a stressful moment, I used this technique not as an instant fix, but as a reminder that I had control over how I responded to my surroundings. Another myth I heard was that this kind of breathing was only for athletes or yogis. That couldn't be further from the truth. Belly breathing is natural, something we all do from the moment we're born. Our disconnect from this technique is what makes it seem special, and really it should just be part of our everyday life. I remember talking to a friend who was going through a tough time. "I don't have time to learn new things," he told me when I mentioned abdominal breathing. I smiled and said, "You don't need extra time, just need to remember how to do it. Start right now. Put your hand on your belly, take a deep breath, and feel it rise. Then slowly breathe out, letting it all go." Salga gave it a try, and after a few minutes she looked at me. Didn't know I could feel so calm in such a short time. The truth is, abdominal breathing doesn't just help us relax. It also boosts our physical health, helps oxygenate our organs better, lowers blood pressure, and strengthens the diaphragm. But what surprised me the most was how this technique helped me stay present. Every inhale grounded me in the here and now, while every exhale freed me from the noise in my mind. Since then, belly breathing has become a cornerstone in my life. I do it in the mornings to start the day clear-headed, during stressful times to calm down, and before bed to release built-up tension. It's not a perfect fix, but it's a constant reminder that the power to change my mental and physical state is literally within me. Now, I ask you, how are you breathing right now? Maybe, like me back then, you're just starting to notice. Notice how your breath feels stuck in your chest, just on the surface. I invite you to pause for a moment, place a hand on your belly, take a deep breath, and feel the air fill you up. With each exhale, let go of those limiting beliefs and myths telling you that you can't change. Belly breathing isn't some trick or passing fadits, a tool that's always been with you, just waiting for you to rediscover it. There's a chance to start fresh, and with every exhale, you let go a little more. You deserve to breathe, feel, and let this truth change your life, just like breathing habits shape your physical health. It wasn't a doctor or a book that made me think about my health. It was a mirror. One afternoon, while looking at my reflection, I noticed something unsettling. My shoulders were tense, my chest looked sunken, and my breathing was shallow, like I was barely tapping into my lung capacity. That moment made me ask myself how much I've been holding back. My breathing habits affect my body. What I found out in the following days was both eye-opening and a bit worrying. I had always thought breathing was just something we do without paying attention. But what if the way we breathe every day is shaping our physical health in ways we don't notice until they turn into obvious problems? My first big realization came when I learned about the connection between breathing and posture. When we breathe shallowly using only our chest, we stop, engage the diaphragm. The muscle that's meant to be the center of our breathing is not doing this. Not only limits the amount of oxygen reaching our body, but also tightens the neck, shoulders, and back. I remembered those days when I felt exhausted for no clear reason, carrying tensions that seemed to have no cause. Now, I knew why. I decided to change that pattern. I committed to practicing deep breathing every morning, sitting up straight, placing one hand on my belly and the other. ... I focused on my chest, making sure it was my belly, not my chest, moving with each breath. At first, it felt weird, almost like I was learning something that should come naturally. But over time, my body started to adjust. I noticed my posture got better, my neck and shoulders relaxed, and I had more energy throughout the day. That was just the beginning. I found out that breathing doesn't just affect posture. It also directly impacts how our organs work when we breathe shallowly. It's not just a biological function or just a meditation practice, it's both. It's a constant reminder that we're physical and spiritual beings living at the crossroads of the tangible and the infinite. I started sharing this experience with people around me. Did you know you can calm your mind just by lengthening your exhalations? I asked a friend who struggled with anxiety. Tried it, and after a few minutes, he looked at me surprised and said, "It's like I turned off the noise in my head." Then another, more skeptical friend gave it a shot. While practicing deep breathing and thinking over an important decision, I realized that not only did I find clarity, but also this strange yet comforting feeling that I was making the right choice. What I learned from this experience is that breathing doesn't belong solely to science or spirituality. It's the bridge between them. It's a reminder that the universe we try to understand through science is also alive inside us, waiting to be explored. Spirituality. Now I want to ask you, how are you breathing right now? Are you aware of every breath in and out, or is it just something you take for granted? I invite you to take a moment, close your eyes, and feel the air as it moves in and out of your body. Notice how this simple, everyday act can connect you to who you are, to the here and now, and to something much bigger than yourself. Because in every breath, there's a balance between body and soul, between what's seen and unseen, and when you recognize that, you realize that. You don't have to choose between science and spirituality. You're living right where they meet, and that meeting point is you, the breath of life. Breathing is way more than just air going in and out of our lungs. It's a constant reminder that we're alive. It's the quiet rhythm that connects us to our body, our mind, and something deeper, something beyond what we can touch. With every breath in, there's a promise of a fresh start, and with every breath out, a letting go of what no longer serves us, no matter who we are, or what we've been through. Breathing is always with us, faithful and steady, just waiting for us to notice it. In its simplicity, it holds the power to transform, to heal, to awaken. It's the bridge between who we think we are and who we truly are. So, as you close this book, I invite you to take a moment, take a deep breath, and feel its magic. Because no matter what challenges you face or what dreams you chase, you can always come back to your breath, your eternal anchor, that connects you with the very essence of life itself. Breathe, trust, and keep moving forward. Everything you need is already inside you. If this audiobook inspired you, just imagine what you can discover with many more. Don't let knowledge and spiritual growth stop here. Check out our full playlist and dive into more transformative wisdom. And if you really want to elevate your life with different perspectives on spirituality, I invite you to visit my channel, Chronicle of Knowledgeable. Find deep spiritual content to keep expanding your mind and your being. Don't miss the chance to keep transforming your reality. Take the next step now. Thank you so much.